Fell after an army operation resulted in the death of its leader. Known as Mencho, he was one of the most wanted men.
Mexico's most powerful drug kingpin was killed during a military operation. Mexican officials say criminal groups burned.
The Mexican army says it has killed the leader of the country's most powerful drug cartel.
Better known as El Mencho, was the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. He was shot
Hello everyone. I want to just take a brief moment before we even dive into the really heavy material we have on the docket today.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to take a few seconds to pause, really. I want to send a very sincere prayer and just my absolute deepest well wishes to every single one of you listening or watching right now.
It's so important to start there today.
It really is. I mean, whether you are commuting to work or, sitting at home, maybe working late on a project, I truly hope that you are safe, I hope you are healthy, and that peace really finds its way to you and your families.
Absolutely. Peace, safety, and protection to everyone tuning in. We really don't take your time or your trust for granted.
No, we don't. The world can be an incredibly chaotic place, especially given the exact things we're about to discuss today. So your well-being is genuinely important to us.
Truly.
And so, with all of that said, I want to officially welcome you to the Rockapraditha channel.
It is great to be here.
If you are looking for a place where we don't just, skim the breaking news headlines, but actually tear them apart to understand the machinery underneath the story, well, you have found your home. This is where we do the deep work.
And honestly, we could not have picked a more critical time to have this exact conversation.
No, we couldn't.
We are looking at a topic today that quite literally shook the ground in North America this week.
Shook the ground is not just a metaphor this time. We need to talk about Sunday, February 22, 2026.
A historic date, frankly.
If you glanced at your phone that morning, or checked your social media, or turned on any TV channel, you saw the headline, it was massive.
It was everywhere.
Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes.
The ghost.
Exactly. To the world, he was the myth,
No.
El Mencho. And the headline was incredibly simple. He is dead.
This is a seismic shift. I really don't use that phrase lightly. We are talking about the undisputed leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the CJNG.
Right.
This isn't just a criminal we are talking about. This is a man who built a paramilitary empire that frankly rivals the power and budget of many small nations.
Exactly. And the narrative, it should have been simple.
You'd think so.
The bad guy is gone. The government won. Mission accomplished. Time to pop the champagne.
But that is absolutely not what happened.
Not at all. Instead of a victory lap, we saw literal cities burning. We saw major international airports closing down. We saw this heavy silence fall over huge metropolitan areas.
It felt dangerous.
It felt terrifying.
And that right there is the paradox of what we call the kingpin strategy. It's something we are going to have to dismantle piece by piece today.
We really are.
Because you take out the head, but the body doesn't just instantly die.
Sometimes it thrashes around.
Yes, or it splinters. And in this specific case, the reaction was this immediate, highly coordinated chaos.
So that is our mission for this deep dive today. We are going to move way past that initial breaking news banner.
We have to.
We need to understand who El Mencho actually was. Like, how does a guy go from being a local police officer to public enemy number one?
That's a crazy trajectory.
And we need to look closely at the CJNG itself, because based on the sources we have, they look a lot less like a street gang and way more like a paramilitary corporation.
A Fortune 500 company with automatic weapons.
Exactly. And finally, we need to answer the really uncomfortable question. Does his death actually make any of us safer, or did it just kick open the door to something much worse?
And to do all that, we are drawing on a really thick stack of reports from journalists on the ground, official military statements directly from the Mexican Ministry of Defense, and deep analyses of the immediate fallout across Jalisco and the surrounding states.
We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's start right at the beginning with the timeline. I want to put the listener right there in the moment. Take us back to when it actually happened.
Okay.
Sunday, February 22, 2026. Where exactly are we geographically?
We are in a place called Tapalpa. It is a town situated in the state of Jalisco.
Okay, Tapalpa.
Now, context is everything here. Tapalpa is not some border town war zone that you might imagine from movies.
Right, it's not a gritty industrial area.
Not at all. It's actually designated as a Pueblo Magico, a magic town. It is known for being quiet. It has this crisp, cool mountain air, There are pine forests, little wooden cabins.
Sounds like a vacation spot.
It is. It is a very popular weekend retreat for wealthy people coming up from Guadalajara. It is the absolute last place you would ever expect to see a literal war zone erupt.
It sounds completely idyllic.
It usually is very peaceful. But in the early pre-dawn hours of that Sunday, while pretty much everyone in town was sound asleep, the Mexican Special Forces were moving in.
And this is important, right? They weren't just out on a routine patrol in the mountains.
Oh no, they were hunting.
So this was absolutely not a chance encounter. It wasn't like they pulled a guy over for a broken taillight and went, wow, we just found the most wanted man in the world.
No, absolutely not. This was a highly targeted precision military operation. The sources strongly indicate that the Mexican government had significant intelligence support from the United States to make this happen.
Meaning they had been tracking him for a while.
We are talking about months, potentially even years, of mapping his movements, intercepting encrypted communications, and basically just waiting for him to make one tiny mistake.
And being in Tapalpa was that mistake.
Exactly. They determined that this specific window of time in this specific mountain town was the moment. He was there, and more importantly, he was vulnerable.
So the military moves in. It is completely dark outside. The entire town is sleeping. The mist is probably heavy up in those mountains. What actually happens when they reach the target compound?
Chaos. Just absolute chaos. You have to understand that El Mencho was never alone. He doesn't travel like you or I do.
He had an entourage.
Much more than an entourage. He had his personal guard with him. They call it his Anillo de Seguridad, his security ring.
And these aren't just guys with handguns tucked into their jeans.
No, these are heavily armed, highly trained bodyguards. Many of them actually have elite military backgrounds themselves. So when they realized that their perimeter had been breached by the special forces, they didn't just put their hands up and surrender.
They fought back.
Violently. The sources describe the darkness of this quiet mountain town just suddenly lighting up with intense gunfire.
It must have been terrifying for the locals.
It was an incredibly intense, close-quarters firefight. We are talking about heavy automatic weapons and likely fragmentation grenades being thrown. The civilian residents of Tapalpa literally woke up to the sound of the war happening down the street.
And looking at the official reports from the Ministry of Defense, it wasn't a bloodless raid. There were casualties on the ground.
Right. The official report states that 4 cartel members were killed in that initial brutal exchange of gunfire.
But the absolute most important detail, obviously, is that El Mencho himself was hit during the raid.
Yes. He sustained very serious gunshot wounds during the firefight. But here's where the timeline gets a little chaotic and frantic. He didn't die instantly, right there on the scene.
Wait, he didn't?
No, he didn't. And this really shows the frantic nature of the immediate aftermath. The military managed to secure him while he was still bleeding out. They actually attempted a massive medical evacuation.
They tried to save his life.
Yes, they did. The plan was to urgently fly him via military helicopter straight to Mexico City so he can get intensive medical care.
Why go through all that risk to save him? Wouldn't it be easier for them if he just died right there?
It comes down to intelligence. If you can keep a guy like El Mencho alive, you can interrogate him.
Right, the information he holds is priceless.
Exactly. You can get hard data on the cartel's internal structure, their hidden finances, the specific names of corrupt politicians and police chiefs on his payroll.
That makes sense.
Or, at the absolute very least, the government wants to put him on trial publicly to show the citizens that the rule of law actually works.
So they load him onto the helicopter.
They do. But he never made it to the hospital.
He died in the air.
He was officially declared dead in transit. The trauma from the gunshot wounds was just too critical, and almost immediately after that, the government had to scramble to make the official announcement.
The press release.
Right. They framed it, completely understandably, as this monumental historic blow to international drug trafficking. They specifically went out of their way to cite his massive role in the flow of fentanyl.
Which is a huge issue.
It is a multi-billion-dollar deadly issue for both Mexico and the United States.
Okay, so the king is officially dead. The headline hits the internet. But before we get into the literal fires that started burning an hour later, I really want to pause and understand the man himself.
It's crucial context.
Because you read these profiles of him, and El Mencho just is not your typical villain backstory. He didn't start out as this evil mastermind, and he wasn't born into a wealthy cartel family like some of those narco juniors you hear about.
No, he really wasn't. And I think that is exactly what makes his trajectory so fascinating.
Yeah.
And honestly, so disturbing.
Where did he start?
He was born right there in Jalisco, actually. to a very modest farming family. Incredibly humble beginnings. In fact, just like millions of other people, he spent a good chunk of his youth in the United States working as a manual laborer.
Really? He was in the U.S.?
Yes. He was an undocumented immigrant, picking avocados and other crops in the fields, likely out in California.
So he was just a regular guy trying to scratch out a living?
At that point in his life, yes. Now, he was dealing small amounts of drugs on the side, sure, which is what eventually got him caught and deported back to Mexico. But he was just a street-level guy. He wasn't a warlord.
But here is the massive twist that always catches people completely off guard when they learn about him. When he was sent back to Mexico, before he became the world's most wanted man, he was actually wearing a badge.
I know, it's a staggering detail.
Wait, a real badge? He was a cop.
Yes, a legitimate police officer. He was a sworn member of the local municipal police force in a town called Tomatlan.
That is just wild to me, the sheer irony of it all. You have a guy who takes an oath to uphold the law, and he eventually ends up building this massive paramilitary empire designed explicitly to break it.
It is definitely ironic on the surface. But if you look a little closer at the mechanics of it, it's also highly strategic.
How so?
Well, think about it from a tactical standpoint. If you are eventually going to run a massive, complex criminal organization, what better training ground could you possibly ask for than knowing exactly how the police operate from the inside?
Oh, that makes terrifying sense. He saw the playbook.
Exactly. He knew all the standard operating procedures. He knew how the shift changes and patrols worked. He knew how to listen to and decipher police radio codes. And thus, most importantly, he knew exactly who in the department was corruptible and who wasn't.
He learned the exact price of a bribe.
Precisely. So when he eventually left the uniform behind for good, he took all of that institutional knowledge with him into the underworld.
So he crosses that line permanently. He enters the drug trade full-time. How exactly did he go from being an ex-cop to becoming El Mencho, the cartel boss?
It wasn't overnight. He didn't just suddenly jump into the CEO chair. He had a long apprenticeship. He essentially went to work for older, deeply established criminal groups.
Which ones?
Specifically the Mencho Cartel in those early days. He actually married into the Valencia family, which was this extremely powerful drug trafficking clan at the time. He kept his head down, and he learned the logistics of the entire industry.
The business side of things.
Exactly. Distribution networks, how to properly defend your territory, how to manage complex supply chains moving product north. He was a very attentive student of the industry.
And then eventually he decided it was time to branch out on his own.
Well, he didn't just decide to branch out. He recognized a power vacuum, and he ruthlessly filled it.
What happened?
When the Mencho Cartel started to severely fracture, ironically, because their own leader was killed or captured, El Mencho seized that exact moment of weakness. He took his loyalists, and he founded something entirely new.
The CJNG.
Yes, the Cartel de Jalisco New Generación. And that specific name matters a lot. New Generation.
What exactly were they trying to signal with that name?
They were signaling a very hard, very public break from the past.
Yeah.
The older cartels back then were often these rural cowboy-style organizations.
Right, guys in boots and big hats with gold-plated pistols.
Exactly. The Sinaloa cartel represented that old guard. But CJNG was putting out a different message. They were saying, we are modern, we are tactical, we are highly trained, and we are completely different.
And under his leadership, they clearly weren't content with just holding on to a small patch of local turf in Jalisco.
Not at all. They were incredibly aggressive.
Aggressive honestly seems like an understatement based on the reports we are looking at.
It really is. El Mencho became infamous for a leadership style that was brutally decisive. There was absolutely no compromise with him. If there was a rival group in an area he wanted, they were entirely eliminated.
No negotiations.
None. If there was a port or a highway they wanted to control, they just took it by force. This wasn't a slow, creeping corporate growth. It was a violent explosion.
They expanded everywhere.
They expanded across Mexico with a speed and a viciousness that caught a lot of the federal authorities completely off guard. Within just a single decade, they managed to establish a heavily armed presence in almost every single state in Mexico.
And that rapid expansion brings us perfectly to the actual structure of the CJNG, because when you look at the raw footage, and our sources describe this imagery vividly, these guys do not look like traditional gangsters.
No, they don't.
They aren't wearing baggy street clothes and holding cheap pistols sideways.
Definitely not. If you didn't know any better and you just saw a photo of them, you would absolutely think you were looking at a highly funded Special Forces military unit.
Wow.
And that aesthetic is entirely by design. The CJNG essentially operates as a paramilitary corporation. This is one of the biggest, most dangerous differentiators that El Mencho introduced to the cartel landscape.
Let's really unpack that term, paramilitary. What are we actually seeing on the ground in these videos?
We are seeing thousands of men in full professional tactical gear. We are talking ballistic helmets, heavy plate carriers, high-end bulletproof vests, and they even have the CJNG letters proudly stamped in bold across their chests.
Like a corporate logo on a uniform.
Exactly like a uniform. And the weaponry is terrifying. We're seeing automatic weapons that easily rival and sometimes exceed what the actual Mexican military uses.
Like what kind of weapons?
They routinely use Barrett .50 caliber sniper rifles. These are weapons designed to pierce engine blocks from a mile away. They have heavy belt-fed machine guns, they have rocket-propelled grenades, they have a distinct brand identity built entirely around military dominance.
And then they have those vehicles that are just straight out of a dystopian movie. I think they call them monsters. Can you describe what a monster is in this context?
These things are literal nightmares on wheels. They are makeshift armored personnel carriers. The cartel will take a heavy-duty commercial truck, like a Ford Super Duty or a massive commercial chassis, and they quietly take it to a hidden, clandestine workshop in the mountains.
And they modify it.
Heavily. They weld incredibly thick plates of solid steel over almost every single inch of the vehicle. They install heavy rotating gun turrets on the roof. They swap out the windows for thick bulletproof glass. They weld massive steel battering rams to the front grille.
So it is quite literally a homemade civilian tank.
That is exactly what it is. It's an infantry fighting vehicle built in a barn. They are specifically engineered to withstand heavy small arms fire, to crash through police barricades, and most importantly, to intimidate the hell out of anyone who sees them.
I can imagine.
Imagine standing on your street and seeing a convoy of 10 of these massive, black, steel-plated trucks rolling down your local highway with masked men manning machine guns on top. It sends a very clear, terrifying message. We own this road. You don't.
And it's not just brute force heavy metal either. The technology they're using isn't lagging behind. I saw some mentions in the sources about drone warfare.
Yes, and this is where it crosses into modern asymmetrical warfare. They buy commercial, off-the-shelf quadcopter drones, and they modify them in their labs to carry and drop custom-made high explosives onto rival camps or police stations.
Dropping bombs from drones? Like an actual military?
Precisely. They also heavily deploy improvised landmines on dirt roads to blow up military convoys and slow down security forces trying to enter their territory. This is not just about quietly selling drugs on a street corner. It is about total territorial control, using advanced military tactics. They are fighting a war for land, and they are heavily armed to hold it.
It just sounds so incredibly disciplined.
That right there is the key word. Discipline. The CJNG is not a chaotic mob. They have an extremely strict, rigid chain of command. It is deeply hierarchical.
How is it organized?
You have these guys called field commanders. Each one is responsible for a specific geographic territory or state. And they report strictly up to the Central Leadership Council. It's not a loose collection of street thugs at all. It is a corporate org chart with deadly consequences for insubordination.
Which really explains why they have been so incredibly hard for the government to kill off entirely.
Exactly. It operates on what analysts call the franchise model. If a high-ranking leader in one specific region, let's say over in Michoacan, gets arrested by the military or killed by a rival, the rest of the cartel structure over in Colima or Guanajuato does not collapse.
It just keeps running.
It is incredibly resilient. They have massive redundancy built into the entire system.
And their actual business model is widely diversified too, right? I mean, we always talk about fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine. Obviously, those are the massive cash cows. But they seem to have their hands in literally everything.
They are a brutal conglomerate. The sources list money laundering, obviously, through real estate and front companies, but also massive amounts of extortion.
Shaking down locals.
Yes, charging hardworking businesses for so-called protection. And this hits everyone, from the wealthy avocado farmer exporting to the US, all the way down to the tiny street corner taco stand. If you make money, the CJNG wants a cut.
And what else are they doing?
Human smuggling is a massive revenue stream. and also specifically industrial-scale fuel theft, which is known locally in Mexico as huachicol.
How big of a deal is the fuel theft, really? Is it just guys with buckets?
Oh no, it is massive. They literally tap directly into the high-pressure state-owned oil pipelines underground and siphon off millions and millions of dollars worth of gasoline.
Wow.
Then they turn around and sell it on the black market, or sometimes even openly on the side of the highway. It is an industrial-scale logistical operation that bleeds the Mexican state oil company absolutely dry.
And they clearly aren't shy about any of this power. They want the public to know they have it.
That is where their sophisticated propaganda arm comes in. They routinely produce and release high-definition videos showing off their private troops, their heavy weapons, those armored monsters we talked about.
I've seen some of those clips on social media. They look like movie trailers.
It is deliberate psychological warfare. They desperately want the general public to fear them, and they want their cartel rivals to clearly know that they are completely outgunned. They need to project this aura of absolute invincibility.
So you have this massive, heavily militarized, hyper-disciplined machine. And then suddenly, on the morning of February 22, the government successfully cuts off the head of the snake. They announce El Mencho is dead.
Right.
And I think a lot of everyday people watching the news probably expected a celebration, maybe a sigh of relief, a parade even, but what actually happened was a complete code red.
It was almost instantaneous. The speed of the reaction was terrifying. Within just a few hours of the news of his death spreading, the streets, as one of the sources vividly put it, caught fire.
This is the part of the deep dive that really sticks with me. The narcobloqueos. Can you carefully explain to the listener what a narcobloqueo actually looks like on the ground? Why do they do it?
It is a brutal terror tactic and a very effective defensive maneuver rolled into one chaotic action. What happens is, heavily armed cartel members flood the streets and hijack large vehicles.
Like civilian cars.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
but usually bigger. City buses, massive commercial semi-trucks, delivery vans. They force the drivers out at gunpoint, park these massive vehicles horizontally across major city intersections and crucial highways, and then they douse them in gasoline and set them completely on fire.
So they literally paralyze the entire city infrastructure.
Completely. Think about the logistics. If you block the 4 or 5 main highway arteries of a major city with burning multi-ton buses, absolutely nothing can move.
Right, traffic stops entirely.
Police and military reinforcements cannot drive in to help. Ambulances cannot get wounded people to hospitals. Fire trucks can't reach the burning vehicles. It rapidly creates this massive frozen zone where the cartel can freely move around, commit attacks, or secure escape routes for their people.
And it terrifies the population.
Exactly. It creates widespread, instant panic.
The reports indicate there were over 250 of these fiery blockades reported that day. 250, that is just a staggering number to try and wrap your head around.
It really shows the terrifying level of internal communication and coordination they have. This wasn't just a few angry guys acting out spontaneously because their boss died.
No, it was planned.
This was a deliberate top-down command going out simultaneously to embedded sleeper cells across multiple different states. Shut it all down right now.
There is this one specific image from the source material that I just cannot get out of my head. It happened in San Francisco del Rincon, which is a city in the state of Guanajuato.
I know exactly the photo you mean.
There is an OXXO, which for those who don't know, is basically like a local 7-Eleven convenience store, and the entire store is just completely engulfed in raging flames.
Right, they love to target convenience stores like OXXO or pharmacies because they are on every major corner. They are made of cheap materials that burn very easily, and it is incredibly high visibility for the media cameras.
But the craziest part of the image isn't just the massive fire. Right in the foreground, right in front of this blazing inferno, there's a civilian man just calmly riding his bicycle, just pedaling past a burning building like it's a normal Tuesday.
It is a deeply surreal, haunting image.
Yeah.
It perfectly captures that jarring collision of everyday normal life and sudden extreme violence.
Yeah.
You have regular working people just trying to go about their day, trying to survive and get to work or get home, while the very infrastructure of their society around them is literally burning to the ground.
It's hard to look at.
It really speaks to the incredible resilience of the Mexican people having to navigate this. But at the same time, it highlights the deeply tragic normalization of this exact kind of chaos. You shouldn't have to dodge burning buildings on your morning commute.
And this chaos absolutely wasn't isolated to just one tiny mountain town.
No, not at all. This violence spread like a rapid contagion. We saw severe chaos and blockades reported in at least 6 different Mexican states simultaneously.
6 states.
Jalisco, obviously, since that's their home base. But also spreading outward to Colima, Michoacan, Nayarit, Guanajuato, and all the way up to Tamaulipas. This was a massive, highly coordinated show of force across a huge geographic area.
That's like a flexing a muscle.
Exactly. It was the cartel collectively screaming to the government, "You might have killed our founder, but we're still everywhere. We can burn the country down if we want to."
And let's look at Guadalajara for a second, because, I mean, that is a major modern metropolis. It is the second largest city in all of Mexico. It is heavily known as a major tech hub. It is a vibrant cultural capital. And the reports say it turned into a complete ghost town in a matter of hours.
It went into total lockdown. I mean, imagine for a second if a city the size of San Francisco or Chicago just completely shut down every street and business on a random Sunday afternoon because of armed gunmen.
It's unthinkable.
All the shops aggressively shuttered their metal doors.
Yeah.
Universities and public schools completely suspended classes immediately via emergency text messages. The entire public transit system halted buses and trains.
The government had to step in, right?
State government officially had to declare a massive security emergency, a formal code red. They went on television and social media and told millions of residents, shelter in place, lock your doors, do not go out on the streets for any reason.
And you really have to think about the massive timing implications here. We are in 2026. Guadalajara is officially a host city for the upcoming FIFA World Cup.
That is the massive multi-billion-dollar elephant in the room. We're in 2026. The World Cup is absolutely imminent. You have immense international investment flowing into the city. You have huge stadiums currently being prepped and renovated.
And global media attention.
Exactly. And then suddenly you have the entire world watching on live television as this major host city completely shuts down because a drug cartel decided to set it on fire.
It's a PR nightmare, but more importantly, it's a huge security red flag.
The anxiety regarding the upcoming World Cup is deeply palpable in all these security reports. It immediately raises massive, difficult questions about providing adequate security for an international sporting event of that sheer magnitude.
Right.
How can the government possibly guarantee the safety of tens of thousands of foreign tourists and soccer fans if a cartel can just decide to shut down the host city's highway system on a whim?
It really is the fear factor that drives it all, isn't it? It is not just the actual bullets flying. It is the lingering uncertainty. It's the parents who are now absolutely terrified to send their kids back to school the next day. It's the local businesses bleeding money every single hour. They are forced to stay closed.
It violently paralyzes the local economy and the society itself. The direct financial loss from a single day of commerce shutting down in a city that size is in the tens of millions of dollars. But the long-term psychological cost to the citizens, that is much harder to measure.
And speaking of total paralysis, let's pivot and talk about the airports. Because if the roads on the ground were totally blocked with burning trucks, the skies above weren't looking much better.
No, the ripple effect of the violence went completely vertical.
Yeah.
The thick, black smoke pouring from all those hundreds of burning vehicles, those narcoblopios, was actually dense enough to severely affect visibility operations at the major commercial airports.
That is insane to even think about. Literal street-level gang fires putting enough smoke into the sky to ground commercial passenger jets.
It disrupted radar and visual operations significantly, and then you have the corporate risk assessment kicking in.
The airlines reacting.
Right. The major international airlines looked at the live feed of the situation, multiple cities on fire, heavily armed men on highways, the potential risk for surface-to-air attacks.
Wait, surface-to-air? Like shooting at planes?
Yes, and remember, this cartel has successfully shot down Mexican military helicopters before using rocket-propelled grenades. It is absolutely not an imaginary threat. So the corporate risk managers at the airlines looked at all of this and just decisively pulled the plug on flights.
Who are we talking about here? Which airlines?
The absolute biggest players in North America. The sources list Air Canada, United Airlines, American Airlines, Southwest, Alaska Airlines, and of course Aeromexico.
Yeah.
They all just immediately started canceling inbound, outbound flights.
And I actually read a detail in the sources about some planes having to physically turn around while they were already midair.
Yes, specifically there was a very tense report regarding Southwest Airlines. I mean, just put yourself in the shoes of a passenger on that exact flight.
Okay.
You are sitting there, maybe you are en route to a relaxing beach vacation in Puerto Vallarta, or maybe heading to a critical business meeting in Guadalajara. You are looking out the little window, tray tables are up, you are getting ready to land.
And then what?
And then the pilot suddenly comes on the overhead intercom and calmly says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have to turn the plane completely around and head back to the US. It's currently not safe to land the aircraft in Mexico."
That is deeply terrifying. You would instantly assume the worst.
It is. That is the exact moment when you realize as a civilian that this isn't just a minor local police issue down there. It is a massive regional security crisis. The major aviation insurance companies, the global risk managers, they all collectively looked at the burning city and said, "No go. Turn the planes around."
And naturally, the international diplomatic community reacts to that kind of chaos too.
Immediately. The governments of the United States and Canada rapidly issued severe highest-level travel advisories.
Telling people to get out.
Well, actually, they told their citizens, who were unfortunately already on the ground in places like Jalisco or Michoacan, to stay exactly where they were and shelter in place.
Because moving is too dangerous.
Exactly. Don't try to drive to the airport. Don't go out on the street to look around. Lock your hotel doors. The Canadian Embassy put out a very specific bulletin aggressively warning its citizens to avoid all crowds and public squares.
It's a complete mess.
It becomes a massive diplomatic nightmare for the Mexican government as well as a domestic security crisis.
So let's pivot to the why of the international involvement here. Because we mentioned earlier that the U.S. intelligence apparatus provided crucial targeting data for this deadly raid. Why exactly was the United States so heavily invested in hunting down El Mencho? I mean, the U.S. certainly has its own massive domestic problems to deal with.
It essentially boils down to two very interconnected words: fentanyl and security. But to really understand the scale, we have to dig much deeper into the actual numbers driving this.
Please break that down for us.
The synthetic fentanyl crisis, currently ravaging the United States, is nothing short of historically catastrophic. We are talking about many tens of thousands of fatal overdose deaths happening every single year.
It's devastating communities everywhere.
It is officially the leading cause of death for American adults aged 18 to 45. The U.S. federal government, the DEA, the intelligence community, they all definitively identified the CJNG as one of the absolute primary, if not the single largest suppliers of these deadly synthetic opioids crossing the southern border.
So for the U.S. government, hunting this guy wasn't just some abstract foreign policy objective.
No, not at all. For Washington, catching or killing El Mencho was viewed strictly as a matter of urgent domestic health and national safety. He was officially viewed as a direct, lethal threat to the American population.
Because of the volume of drugs.
Yes. The CJNG literally industrialized the chemical production of fentanyl. It's not grown in a field like marijuana. They import massive shipping containers of precursor chemicals from laboratories in Asia. They chemically cook it in massive hidden super labs in the Mexican mountains, and then they use heavy machinery to press it into millions of counterfeit pills that look exactly like prescription OxyContin or Xanax.
And then flood the U.S. market with it. They put a very serious price tag on his head to try and stop it, didn't they?
They did. The U.S. Department of State formally offered a staggering $15 million cash reward for any actionable information leading directly to his arrest or conviction.
$15 million.
That specific dollar amount places him in the absolute top tier of global high-value targets. That is literal public enemy number one money. That is actually a higher bounty than what is offered for many high-profile international terrorists.
But the physical operation itself, the actual guys kicking down the doors in Tapalpa, that was entirely Mexican forces.
Correct. And that is an incredibly crucial distinction when we talk about national sovereignty. The source material notes that while the U.S. military or intelligence likely provided the hard data, the sophisticated electronic intercepts, the live satellite location mapping, the complex signals intelligence, the actual trigger pullers on the ground were Mexican special forces.
Right, Mexico has to be the one to do it.
Absolutely. The Mexican government desperately needs to show its own people and the world that they are the ones enforcing the law within their own sovereign borders. They cannot have foreign troops conducting lethal raids on their soil.
It is a deep cooperation, but clearly a very complicated, tense one.
Very complicated and heavily negotiated. But it does clearly show that when the security interests of both nations perfectly align on a target, the massive machinery of both governments moves decisively.
And it is not just about guns and midnight helicopter raids either. The U.S. aggressively attacks the cartel's money too.
Yes, deep financial warfare. The U.S. Treasury implements heavy financial sanctions against seemingly legitimate companies that are secretly linked to washing the cartel's cash. They sanction specific businessmen and accountants.
The Kingpin Act stuff.
Exactly. The Treasury Department maintains a massive, constantly updated blacklist. The ultimate strategic goal is to financially starve the beast.
Cut off the oxygen.
Right. If you can effectively cut off their complex money laundering networks, you make it significantly harder for them to quietly purchase those explosive drones and build those armored monster trucks we talked about earlier. You make it much harder for them to consistently pay their thousands of foot soldiers every week.
So bringing it all together, here we are. El Mencho is officially dead. The military raid into Pulpa was deemed successful in strict tactical terms. But when we look at the smoking ruins of those convenience stores and the completely empty, canceled flight boards at the airports, we really have to ask the hard, uncomfortable question.
We do.
Is the war actually over? Or did we all just violently create a massive power vacuum?
And this right here brings us to the great ongoing debate among security analysts around the entire Kingpin strategy.
Let's dig into that.
This has essentially been the default playbook for the US and Latin American governments for decades, going all the way back to hunting Pablo Escobar in Colombia in the 90s, or tracking down El Chapo in Sinaloa more recently.
The idea being you just go after the top guy.
Right. The underlying logic is borrowed from the corporate world. If you aggressively remove the CEO, the company goes bankrupt and fails.
But massive, heavily armed drug cartels aren't normal Fortune 500 companies. They don't just quietly file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and liquidate their assets.
Exactly. And violent history strongly suggests that when you take out a uniquely strong, terrifyingly disciplined leader like El Mencho, you absolutely do not get sudden peace on the streets.
What do you get?
You get rapid, bloody fragmentation.
What some people refer to as the Hydra effect.
Yes, the mythological Hydra. You cut off one big head with a sword, and 2 or 3 smaller, angrier heads immediately grow back in its place to bite you. But in cold reality, it is often much messier than the myth. The main group violently splinters.
Because everyone wants to be the new boss.
Exactly. You have all these heavily armed lieutenants, those regional field commanders we mentioned earlier, who suddenly wake up, realize the big boss is dead, and decide that they should be the ones to sit on the throne and control the billions of dollars.
So that strict military discipline we talked about just instantly breaks down.
Right, because El Mencho actively held the entire chaotic alliance together with extreme fear and deep respect. Without him breathing down their necks, maybe the ambitious regional commander in Colima suddenly decides he absolutely does not want to take orders from the guy running things over in Jalisco.
So they go to war with each other.
Yes, you get vicious internal power struggles. Heavily armed factions within the exact same cartel fighting each other in the streets for ultimate control. It literally turns into brother fighting against brother.
And meanwhile, while they're distracted fighting each other, the other big cartels, their bitter rival groups, are just sitting back and watching this happen.
Oh, they are actively watching, and they smell blood in the water. The Sinaloa cartel, for example, has historically been the CJNG's absolute biggest, most powerful rival for territory.
Right.
If Sinaloa's leadership sees the CJNG is heavily distracted, burning through money and ammo fighting a massive civil war internally, they might decide to launch a massive external invasion into CJNG territory.
To steal their specific drug routes.
Exactly. They might launch a huge coordinated military offensive to forcefully take over the lucrative shipping ports on the coast or the highly profitable smuggling crossings up on the US border. So suddenly, a city is dealing with extreme violence from within the cartel and extreme violence from outside invaders simultaneously.
And usually, from what we've seen in the past, these newer, smaller, splintered groups end up being even more violent and unpredictable than the original massive cartel.
That is the tragic historical pattern, yes. Because these new, smaller splinter factions are incredibly desperate to quickly establish dominance and strike fear into their rivals.
They have something to prove.
Exactly. And furthermore, they usually don't immediately have access to the deep, massive financial pockets or the smooth international logistics of the old boss. So to fund their new little army, they rapidly resort to highly visible, high-impact local crimes to raise fast cash.
Like what kind of crimes?
Widespread kidnappings for ransom, aggressive local extortion of small businesses, highway robbery. They act incredibly erratically because they are fighting for pure survival.
So paradoxically, for the average innocent citizen just trying to live their life, the situation on the ground might actually get significantly less safe in the short term after a kingpin falls.
It is a terrifying, very real prospect. Instead of having to manage one giant, relatively stable, predictable problem, the government suddenly has 20 smaller, highly aggressive, completely unpredictable problems shooting at each other in public.
Which is just an absolute nightmare scenario for law enforcement. And that is exactly the massive challenge facing the Mexican government right now.
Precisely.
So what exactly is the federal government saying publicly in the wake of all these burning cities? We have a newly elected president in Mexico right now, Claudia Sheinbaum. What is her official stance on this explosion of violence?
She obviously had to step up to the podium immediately to address the panic. She forcefully called the Tapalpa military operation a deeply necessary, unavoidable step for the long-term security of the nation.
She defended the raid.
She did, and she is publicly urging calm and patience from the citizens. But frankly, the immediate political and security challenge she faces is absolutely immense. She has to decisively prove to the terrified public that the democratic state is fundamentally stronger and more capable than the cartel's armed forces.
Can she actually do it?
That is the billion-dollar question. Can the state successfully maintain strict military control of the highways and cities during this chaotic transition period? Can the government intelligence agencies actually prevent that massive internal fragmentation from tearing the country apart? Or will the current string of fiery blockades rapidly escalate into a full-blown, sustained civil conflict between these warring factions?
The military is going to be stretched incredibly thin.
Very thin. They are going to have to permanently deploy troops and stay in the streets of these major cities. They absolutely cannot just pack up and leave Tapalpa now that the raid is over. They have to physically hold the ground to prevent the cartel from taking it right back.
It really feels like we are standing at a massive historical crossroads here.
We truly are. El Mencho is permanently gone. That is an undeniable fact. But the massive, efficient corporate system that he built over a decade, the established smuggling routes, the corrupt political connections, the billions in laundered money, the stockpiles of heavy weapons, that entire infrastructure is all still sitting right there.
Waiting for someone to use it.
Exactly. The heavy machinery didn't just magically disappear into thin air just because the main operator died. The synthetic drugs are still actively being produced in the labs today. The massive consumer demand for fentanyl up in the US is still as high as ever.
So the financial incentive hasn't changed at all.
Not one bit. The coming months are going to ruthlessly determine if this event was truly the definitive end of a dark era, or if it is just the chaotic starting gun for a much, much bloodier chapter in the drug war.
It really makes you think all the way back to that one specific image we discussed earlier. The guy on the bicycle.
The cyclist in Guanajuato.
Yeah. The convenience store is violently burning to the ground. The entire city is thrown into utter chaos. And yet he just keeps pedaling his bike forward.
It's so symbolic.
It is a profound symbol of human resilience, sure. People just keep going to work because they absolutely have to feed their families. But it's also, I don't know, it's almost a deeply depressing normalization of extreme violence.
And that right there is the absolute greatest danger to civil society. When a state of emergency, a literal code red, just becomes another mundane part of the daily weather forecast.
Yeah.
When citizens wake up and check their phones and say, well, it's raining today, and oh, also the main highway is blockaded by burning semi-trucks, guess I'll take the back roads. How does a modern democratic society actually function and thrive under those conditions long term?
I don't think it can.
Not fully.
That is the profound, unsettling question that lingers over all of this data. When the absolute extraordinary, terrifying violence just quietly becomes ordinary, that is exactly when you know the societal trauma is incredibly deep.
It is a really heavy, sobering thought to leave on, but it is the unvarnished reality of the situation on the ground right now.
Yeah.
Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, is dead.
Yeah.
But this specific story is very, very far from over. Absolutely far from over. The next 6 months of intelligence reports are going to be absolutely critical to watch. We will be tracking this incredibly closely to see if the massive CJNG empire manages to hold itself together under new management, or if it violently tears itself apart in the streets.
We have absolutely covered a massive amount of ground in this deep dive today. From the quiet, misty mountain roads of Tapalpa, all the way to the high-stakes diplomatic politics of Washington, D.C., and down to the burning, chaotic intersections of Guanajuato.
It's a huge web of cause and effect.
It really is. I truly hope this deep dive helped you, the listener, clearly understand the complex, hidden mechanics operating right behind the breaking news headlines. Because it is rarely just a simple Hollywood story of good guys versus bad guys.
Never that simple.
It is deeply about global economics, corporate cartel structure, and brutal ground-level survival.
It is an incredibly complex, interconnected world, and the tiny details absolutely matter. You really cannot fully understand the magnitude of this single event without carefully understanding the decades of context behind it.
You certainly cannot. Now, if you found real value in this exhaustive breakdown today, if you genuinely appreciate us taking the time to painstakingly dig into these military sources and ground reports so you don't have to, please do us a massive favor right now.
Yes, please. Support the Raka Praditha channel.
It genuinely helps us keep the studio lights on and allows us to keep dedicating the hours required to do this level of independent research.
Hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, don't just think about doing it later. Click it right now while you are watching.
Exactly. Give this video a phone up. Like if you learned even one new thing about how these massive organizations actually operate today. And honestly, most importantly, share this content.
Send it to someone who needs to see it.
Send the link to a friend or family member who is actively trying to understand what is actually happening down in Mexico right now, beyond just the sensationalist tweets. Support independent, long-form deep dives.
And hey, if you want to keep learning about this stuff, do not stop your research right here.
Exactly. Check out the specific link we put down in the description below, or just click the next video popping up right on your screen. We have an entire catalog of content breaking down the specific bloody history of the CJNG's rise to power and tons of other deeply related geopolitical topics.
There is always so much more to uncover if you are willing to look.
Stay curious, everyone, and always keep aggressively questioning the official narrative you are handed.
Always.
And please stay safe out there in this crazy world. Thank you so much for joining us for the deep dive today. We will see you next time.